With a growing gang of explorers around me, one of my first exciting missions was the mighty Box Quarry. It's by far the biggest and most complex of all the remaining Bath stone mines. The quarry is located at the western end of the MOD's tunnel quarry site and is partly owned by the MOD, but after some modifications it was only used as an air inlet for the tunnel quarry complex. What makes Box Quarry an exciting place to visit is that it borders on the MOD's underground spaces. Urban explorers make the underground pilgrimage to the infamous Red Door that separates Box and Tunnel Quarry. Box Quarry is what's left behind after local quarrymen drove shafts into the ground in search of the stone after the completion of the Box Railway Tunnel. Like all good underground trips, on our first visit to Box, we met for a pint first at the nearby Quarryman's Arms, a great little pub that celebrates the area's quarrying history. Then 8 of us made our way into the quarry via the entrance known as Back Door, which was only about a 5-minute walk from the pub. You could scramble through a rocky hole at the foot of a cliff face to reach the mine's central area, a great starting point for a tour of the quarry's interesting features. The problem with entering Box via Back Door was that it was actually situated in the back garden of a large house. Around the time of my visit, it was often said locally that the homeowners didn't mind people sneaking in, as their garden was so big it went unnoticed, perhaps because the entrance was tucked away behind their tennis court. Whether this was true or not, I don't know, but in the last few years, the residents have grown tired of the increasing number of visitors, and more recently, the entrance has been securely gated like others in the area. We visited Box Quarry armed with maps, which at the time were available to buy in the form of laminated A3 prints from the Quarryman's Arms. These maps are essential when venturing into Box Quarry, given its size and complexity, but so is experience. Luckily, one of our party was very familiar with the quarry and knew his way around. It's not uncommon for people to get lost in the vast network of tunnels, often requiring assistance from the emergency services and volunteers from Mendip Cave Rescue. As recently as 2020, 4 men needed to be rescued in the early hours of the morning after becoming disoriented in the mine. The group, who were branded foolish for entering the quarry by police, were eventually brought to the surface at around 4 a.m. Martin Grass, secretary of Mendip Cave Rescue, told local news outlet This Is Wiltshire at the time, "I believe the group was quite a long way in, as it took them an hour to get back to the entrance." Fire station manager Richard Humphreys said, "They didn't know where they were going, they didn't have the correct clothing or equipment, and they were incredibly fortunate that they were able to get sufficient phone signal to raise the alarm." A similar incident made the news in 2016 when a group of 20-somethings got trapped in Box Quarry. At the time, the augmented reality game Pokemon Go had taken the world by storm, and it was reported that the group were in the quarry trying to find Pokemon, although in reality they probably weren't, since there's generally no mobile signal below ground. We were a little more prepared on our visit, so we did eventually get out of Box Quarry safely, but we took our time because there was so much to see. The quarry is a fascinating time capsule, a snapshot of the quarrying days. The large wooden cranes used to haul the stone around are still in place, the imprint of horses' hooves can be seen on the quarry floor, and there are piles of cut stone that never made it to the surface. Our guide, an explorer known as Dr. Scotland, or Scott, led us straight to an impressive area in the centre of the complex. Most of the passageways in Box are a couple of metres high, but the aptly named cathedral is by far the highest part of the quarry. It was jaw-dropping to walk from a passageway into such a huge and open underground space. The torches we were using back in 2002 just weren't powerful enough to reveal the true scale of the chamber. It really was similar inside to the inside of a cathedral. It's over 20 metres high and almost 60 metres long. For comparison, the nave of Bristol Cathedral is 22 metres shorter and just 16 metres high. The Bath stone walls in Box's cathedral tapered inward slightly from floor to ceiling, possibly giving the impression of even greater height. The fact the roof is smaller than the floor makes it appear more distant. In the middle of the roof, which is less than 5 metres thick in places, is a hole about 2 metres square, which opens up to the surface, allowing a little bit of sunlight in from above. The cathedral was created when stone was extracted from 3 levels, working from top to bottom, and hauled out through this hole in the roof. This left behind the huge bell-shaped cavern we see today, the only example of its kind in Box Quarry. From Cathedral, Scott led us deeper into the quarry and to the area bordering the MOD's tunnel quarry. The passageways here house barbed wire and metal fences, not to mention the tantalising red door that leads through a brick wall into tunnel quarry.